Good Shabbos. This week's portion is Parshas Vayeshev, and of course, this is the beginning of the story of Yosef. And the opening lines of this week's portion deal with the fact that Yaakov loved Yosef more than the other children, and he favored him by giving him the ksonas pasim, the coat of many colors. And the question that we have to ask, of course, is why did Yaakov prefer Yosef over all the brothers? The simple answer is that he was the oldest son of his beloved wife Rachel, who had died, and therefore, by nature, he was close to him. But it doesn't say that in the Torah. So that's something which seems to be beneath the surface, but for some reason it's not addressed. What it does say is that he loved him kiven zekunim lo, he was the son of his old age. So simply that means he was the son that was born to Yaakov when he was older. The problem with that is he had another son, Binyamin, who was born afterwards, also the son of Rachel. So again, you could answer, yes, they're both Ben Zekunim, but Yosef is favored because he's the older one. But again, it's left out of that which it says in the Torah. There's other explanations, but a simple explanation might be that he was someone who was a son who aided his father and helped him when he was older. He was the one who was by his side. And doesn't say, though, why that was the case. So then we have to ask, okay, he was the one who helped his father. Could be he just chose to do that, or it just happened because of circumstances. But I guess the question still remains, why would that be? Why was he so chosen? So I think what's really important is to see that Yosef has a lot in common with Yaakov, but yet he's different. In other words, I like to compare and contrast. What do we see about Yaakov that was so special in a sense? Is that he changed from being someone who's Yoshev Vaholim, someone who's a dweller in tent, which seems to imply someone who's passive. He's Yaakov. He's holding on. Oh Yado Ochezes Ba'akev Esav. He's holding on to the heel of Esav. He's behind. He's always in second position. And then he tries to be assertive. He tries to take over that first position by buying the birthright, stealing the blessings, and so on and so forth. We see that in his relationship with Lavan also, he's somewhat aggressive. He runs after Rachel to marry her. He makes sure that he makes a lot of money by getting the different types of sheep that he eventually gets from Lavan. So he seems to be very assertive. But where he seems to be lacking is that he never really challenges people outright. He never really confronts, for example, Esav. He buys the birthright. He never confronts Esav by the stealing of the blessings. He fools Yitzchak. He doesn't challenge him. When he leaves Lavan's house, he runs away from Lavan, and Lavan has to catch up to him. When he catches up to him, he has to have a confrontation. But it's always after the fact. He's never the one who seems to be at the forefront of creating challenges, but rather he avoids them, but he manipulates. So he wants to be assertive. He is assertive. When push comes to shove, he actually struggles with the man the night before he meets Esav, and he's successful, and that's why he's now called Yisrael, Kisarisa, Im Elohim V'Anashim V'Tucha. He strives or struggles with the divine, with God or divine or angels and men, and he's successful, but it's always not something he chooses to do. Perhaps what he sees in Yosef is the next generation, the next, you could call, iteration of that same personality trait. Yosef is someone who's willing to be more assertive and challenge up front. And that's why we see that what happens. It says that he chose to be friends with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, the children of the maidservant, and he seems to be in opposition to his brothers. And when he does talk to his father about his brothers, it says he tells them dibasam ra. He says lashon hara. He gives them the evil or bad tidings about his brothers. So he's really upfront in challenging the position of his brothers, and he's staking out a claim to be the main son, so to speak. And then, of course, it's obvious the stories of the dreams. He has these dreams where he's going to be the ruler and that everyone bows down to him. It's a very transparent dream that it's referring to his brothers, and eventually, in the second dream, also his father and his mother. Yaakov even addresses that. He says, it's obvious you're talking about us. It's crazy. You're saying we're going to bow down to you. But more important than having the dream is the fact that he tells his brothers. We might all have these dreams. We might have these aspirations. But sometimes it's better to keep it to oneself. Yosef doesn't do that. He approaches his brothers and he tells them the dreams. He's in a sense telling them, I'm going to rule over you. So that's what maybe Yaakov sees in Yosef. And a very famous verse, which is often quoted, is that Yaakov is like an Aish, is like a fire. Yosef is like a lahava, is like the flame. And Esav is like the kash, the straw. And that the flame shoots forth from the fire, meaning Yosef shoots forth from Yaakov, and he can consume Esav. In other words, Yaakov never really tries to confront Esav head on. He's only forced to. Yosef is the type, not with Esav, but with his brothers, he's the type who's able to push forward and to challenge and to be aggressive. And then we see that Yaakov actually saw that character trait within Yosef, and that's perhaps why he sends him to his brothers. And if you look at the story of Yaakov sending Yosef out to his brothers, what happens is he says they're out there rowing b'Shechem. They're shepherding the sheep and the flocks in the city of Shechem. Go and see and seek out their peace. In other words, he's saying, now that you've created this sort of aggressive stance with your brothers and you're challenging them, now you also have to be aggressive. And I know you could do it, and look and seek for peace and seek peace. And he sends him, though, it says he sends him Hebron, from the valley of Hebron, which is in a sense where the family lives. Vayavo Shechem, and he comes to Shechem, and of course Shechem is just the story we just had, where Shimon and Levi killed out all the city of Shechem. So in a sense, as Rashi and other commentaries point out, Shechem is a place of murder. He's sending him to a place of murder and seeking peace. I would think that Yaakov understood that, but he felt that Yosef is the one who could actually accomplish this next step in the relationship with his brothers and create peace. And then we see a clear parallel. It says, Vayimtzo'eu ish. So before he confronts his brothers, he finds a man, very similar to before Yaakov confronts Esav, Vayoavek ishimo. He struggles with a man the night before. So here also, preceding the confrontation with his brothers, he also finds a man. But here it says, V'hnei toa basada. Yosef is sort of wandering and lost in the field. And in a sense, he needs help. And that has to be understood, why he needs help and why he doesn't go directly. But maybe that shows a little bit of hesitancy, and maybe that Yosef is not ready to accomplish the feat that his father sent him out for. But what happens? The man comes to him and he asks, what are you seeking? Right? The man in the story of Yaakov, he just fights with him. Here he asks, what are you seeking? And what does he say? As I'm looking for my brothers. In other words, I'm going out and I'm going to get them. Yes, I'm lost. I'm not sure. I'm not as confident as I should be. And that, of course, is foreshadowing the fact that he's not successful. And part of his lack of success might be that he wasn't ready, that his aggressiveness, the point of this story, I believe, is that his aggressive attitude towards his brother might have been a step too far. You could be assertive, but you have to know how to hold back also. And that's what he doesn't do. And he says, I'm seeking my brothers. Where are they? And then he goes to them, and of course, the story unfolds where they try to kill him and they sell him as a slave. And really, I think the important lesson that we learn from this is when Yosef now ends up in Egypt, and when he confronts his brothers again, he's not as straightforward. He acts a little bit like Yaakov. He's manipulative, but his manipulation is different than Yaakov's. He manipulates, and he eventually comes out and challenges them outright. But he does it in a much smarter fashion. He's much more controlled. He's much more mature. So in a sense, the story of Yosef is Yaakov sees within him the ability to be more aggressive, more confrontational, willing to take chances. And then Yosef runs with that, and eventually he matures to the point where he knows how to use it and when not to use it. And it's an obvious lesson for all of us. Not necessarily be manipulative and sort of trying to sort of cheat somebody else like the stories we had before, but it's in general saying when we want to accomplish something, we can't always just be passive. We have to be assertive. We have to move forward, but we also have to use what we call our seichel, our head, and make sure that we don't go too far too fast, because we have to understand human nature. So we have to be willing and able, and then be able to control ourselves to a certain degree. And perhaps that's the story of Yosef and what we can learn from the stories as they unfold of Yosef and Yaakov. Good Shabbos.